Hi everyone, I've got a very special guest today. I'm down on the Gold Coast and I'm down at Harcourts Coastal. Now, Dane, who used to be a coach, so he was on that side, and then 7 years ago he decided, you know what, I'm going to get, when I say back on the tools, I'm going to get into owning a business. And he put it all on the line. Now, I think that's sensational. He's 7 years down, he's got 80 salespeople. What did you do that for?
Oh no, it's funny, isn't it? Well, it's interesting as coming from a coach,
Yes.
and then auctioneer into real estate ownership. Sometimes when you do speaking, you travel around the country, you do a session.
I've heard this one that you've done.
And you leave them in this kind of state of, oh, how good was that?
Yeah.
Because it's hard to be a prophet in your own land, but when you're the external person coming in, you're always the wizard.
Yeah.
And then when you fly back to home,
Yeah.
you have this delusion that everyone's changed. You know, I'm changing the world. The biggest difference when you own a real estate business is you realise that change is hard. And when the trainer leaves,
Yeah.
that's when the old habits start again.
Yeah.
So it's actually really interesting to be driving, and that's really the main reason why I wanted to build a business, is because I just didn't want to have...
Didn't want to fly in, fly out.
I didn't
You
want
to actually-
fleeting
yeah.
connection. I wanted to actually have a real connection. It's
Well, 7 years down the track and you've evolved as far as, and you've got a number of offices and they bring their own challenges.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I remember a talk you did at one of the seminars, and you said early days that you've gone out and you've actually gone to present, and then you've gone back and sat in the car and listened to some of your own tapes going, I've got to eat my own dog food here. You know, like it's, and it really was.
I listed an auction early on, and on the way to the auction or presentation,
Yeah.
I was listening to my own CD on how to list an auction. But what was,
That's
interesting,
awesome.
I got the auction, but what was interesting is I actually completely stuffed up my first auction, and I was an auction coach.
Oh.
So here's me as an auction coach, and I actually had a CD, believe it or not, of how to sell an auction under the hammer, and I completely did everything the wrong thing you should do. And that was a real valuable experience, because I realised how powerful that force is to buy into the vendor story. And that's the big mistake I make. I mean, that story goes on because I did have a second chance to re-auction it, and I'll tell you what, I didn't make that same mistake again. Yeah.
Now that point there, as far as you've just, as you can see from behind us, this was his 40th this year, and as you've matured in the business, it sounds like you've allowed yourself to become more vulnerable, to be more open as far as feedback wise, because you've spoken off camera how sometimes you've, you know, had 4 offices, now 3, had a couple of key people, some of those left, but you've evolved, and each time you've actually looked in the mirror and gone, what could I do differently in order to adjust that?
Absolutely, and I take total responsibility for that. So,
Which is not always the case. I mean, not for you, but I mean in general, for all of us, it's not always the case.
I have a view that it's always my fault,
Yeah.
and that's not bad. That just means I can fix it, and I can learn.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm okay with that. It's not my fault because I'm a bad person. It's my fault because it's very difficult to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, we've got 80 salespeople. We've got many of those salespeople have been with us more than 5, 6, 7 years. We've still got the 2 original people that we employed. But there's been 1 or 2 lessons along the way that I look back and think, geez, I could have done that better.
Yeah.
But my goal is, well, I'm going to get them back.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
And that was the point that he made of someone that did end up going somewhere else. He's like, yeah, but we're still in touch with each other. And I reckon he might end up
Believe it or
coming
not,
back.
he was just at reception. Did you see him?
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, that was him. So,
Yeah. So he still
I
cares.
won't mention his name, but it will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I actually remember in early days when you first started, and I made a couple of phone calls to you because I was running an agency in New Farm around the recruitment side. And I think that you have a really, like even when we talked off camera, a really great philosophy around that. That people do so much on the prospecting side to get a new listing. What about on the staff?
Yeah, I think the thing about, like, most of us can relate to the listing process.
Yes.
And we can relate to the fact that just because we need listings doesn't mean the vendor is going to go, oh, okay, well, you need listings, I'll sell.
Yeah.
Knock, knock, oh, you wouldn't believe it, I'm selling.
Well, just in time.
No different to trying to encourage agents to join you. Just because you need agents or you want agents or you've been to a principals conference and they said go and get agents, you calling agents and wanting them to join your business because it's good for your timing has nothing to do with their timing.
Yeah.
When someone leaves a real estate business, they're often leaving something because It could be an eroding problem that's been niggling for a long period of time. It could be one incident that's happened where they feel like the wrong thing's been done. It could be a personality clash. It could be because they feel stale and it's a built-up thing, or it could be a very, very quick decision they make. One thing is you can't predict when that's going to happen. All you can do is be there when their timing changes.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd go as far as to say if you rang an agent today and said, come and join, and they said, yes, I'll come, I'd be worried. Because the same way you get them is the same way you lose them. You know, if someone comes to you that easily, well, the next person that rings them, they're going to go as well. It has to be for the right reasons. And I kind of loathe the word poaching, because it actually completely underestimates and devalues the whole process
and the people,
of building a relationship with someone.
And the trust. And the trust comes over time. It comes over. In that sense, there's back and forwards, and there's little bits as far as information that they build that over a period of time.
That's right. Exactly.
And I still think that real estate is purely our main focus is trust and being a trusted advisor. So
absolutely. And the other thing that the recruiting process does, which is probably one of its most valuable byproducts, is when you're out there talking to people about their frustrations, often that comes up when you can get into an open discussion about what they love about they are and what they don't like about where they are. Yeah. Quite often you actually get feedback on what they don't like about their businesses, and if you're honest, you can actually go back and fix those things in your own business. And I've had occasions where I've had someone mention something and I'm going, oh, we don't do that, but we kind of do. And I think, well, I've gone back and fixed it, because I thought, well, geez, if someone's, it's not intentional. If it's an issue for them, it's probably an issue for some of my guys. So then you can actually improve your business by hearing what other people don't like about the ones they're in.
Wow. So challenging times, or more challenging times at the moment. Is the coast feeling any different? Like, you seem to still be on a trajectory.
Oh, no, our volume's down. Make no mistake. Yeah. Our volume's down, and look, buy activity's down. Obviously, everyone's aware with the banks and less buyers, but what we're focusing on is, look, it's about increasing market share, and it's about making sure that you as an agent can move away from fear and frustration and move to knowledge and power. Yep. So to me, knowledge and power is actually understand what's actually going on in this marketplace, and then that gives you power, and then you move to excitement. So,
which is that activity that we talked about in some of our other points, as far as you never feel like it, but do the activity, and that evolves to that.
So that's right. So the thing is, if you're still sitting open and going, where are all the buyers? The market's changing, frustration, they're not paying the money, bloody buyers. Well, if you're still in that headspace, you need to get out of that headspace. Yeah. To me, it's about making sure that you understand what you can control. Yeah. So vendor feedback, price, vendors are where we put them, communication, making sure that we are not just relying on traffic that turns up. We're driving, going back through our database, we're going back through our old portal inquiry, and we're driving inquiry. Yeah. That's another thing we've got to keep in mind.
So you've gone from one office to three office. You're a non-selling principal. You made that decision about 6 months in to become a non-selling principal. And you've got three offices. How did you evolve with, obviously if you've got 80 salespeople, then you've got well over 100, people, 120, whatever that is. That brings a whole nother element when you add another office and add another office. So if a principal's out there as far as wanting to expand, you've already talked about recruiting side of it, but what happens when you open other offices? What's your biggest challenge?
Yeah, well, that's a good point, because Broadbeach is the major office in terms of most amount of people. Yep. They're all major offices in terms of importance, but if you want to look at where the production comes from, most of it comes from Broadbeach, which probably requires, by default, because of the people, not because of the location, requires a lot of my time. We've got an amazing business at Paradise Point, which has just grown again because we've almost doubled its floor plate. And look, that business is interesting because that's got mostly experienced people. Now, I'm not there every day. If I put brand new people in that business, or newer people in that business, it would disrupt the flow of that business because there's not a full-time leader in there every day. Yep. But we all feel connected. I see it all as a layer upon, they may as well all be in the same building, the way that I look at it. Because my communication, contact, it shouldn't change. Yep. And look, growth to me has all been about just enjoying bringing people into our business and then growing them. Yep. That's just one person at a time. And when you're bringing enough people in, well, then you'll eventually need more space. Yeah. Yep. And when you meet people at a different marketplace, well, then if you feel like you've got enough traction, well, you might open an office. Okay.
So
it's kind of, I haven't been one of these people to put a a geographical dot on the map.
And
It's
you're
more about
bang.
evolution through people
Yeah.
rather than geographics.
Your whole business is an evolution of people as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Off camera, he talked about what he does and how he really likes real estate agents, what they do, their energy, their enthusiasm, what's the word Gary Vee talks about, entrepreneurship. So there's also knocks with that, because I give example of someone that owns a Ray White office up in Brisbane, probably 30 years now, and has seen a lot of churn over that 30 years where they've put time, energy, and given their heart to these people. And it's a bit like dating, and and then bang, you get hit, but you rock up again. So I guess, how has that evolved over 7 years? Because you put in a lot of time and energy, and some people make it, some people don't. You can't
Yeah. I think, that point you raised there is a good one. You put all this time into someone and they leave, and then people can get jaded.
Yeah.
And you've got to be very careful that you don't become too jaded, that you stop believing in the next great person that comes into your business.
That's a really good point.
Because you'll rob yourself of those experiences. And I think it's expectation. So I don't expect loyalty. I don't expect loyalty. I expect value.
Yep.
So what I mean by that is, if I'm not giving value to someone, they'll leave.
Yeah. And if you don't ask the right questions to find out what the value is, that also
that's right.
is
And I don't,
your responsibility.
And I don't expect loyalty if I'm not giving value. I expect an opportunity to fix it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I don't expect loyalty if I'm not giving value. Because how can you say to someone who's been with you 5 years, has had a really good experience, if the next 2 years are completely different?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're cutting back and you're winding back commissions and you're winding back support staff and you're changing the whole structure of the business and you're travelling the world 6 months of the year, that's changed.
Yeah.
So that person hasn't left that business. The principal's left that person.
Yeah.
So I believe sometimes, and I ask people to join me from other businesses where the business has changed and they have the loyalty issue.
Yeah.
And I get that, but I just think you've got to be really careful with that. Like, obviously loyalty is a great trait, but that has a tipping point really in our industry. It really comes back to making sure that you're providing value.
Well, I think he's done an awesome job so far, and I think, as you can see, he's still got some awesome legs on him to keep going. So thank you very much.
I'm not finished yet.
Not yet. See ya. Thanks.
Thank you.